You're listening to the Geekwatch Podcast, episode 90. Could Disney Plus spell the end of the MCU?
This is the Geekwatch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 90 of the Geekwatch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geekwatch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
So today, Marvel has released their movie schedule, including some yet unnamed Marvel movies. I have dipped my toe all the way to my neck in the streaming wars, and I've watched a bunch of shows we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about The Walking Dead because we've got 2 episodes to cover today. But before we get to that, some people out there might be asking, did we hear the comments that Elizabeth Banks made recently? Yes, we heard them. Okay, now on to the Marvel movie schedule. So they just released the fact that Marvel has got everything down to 2023 at this point.
Okay.
Which makes me feel really old because right in the middle of this, I'm going to be eligible for retirement from my day job. But I'll have something to do, obviously. The ones that we know about already, of course, is on May 1st, 2020, Black Widow.
Now R-rated.
There we go.
Marvel.
Now, there's a rumor going around, and take this with a grain of salt, because again, I call this a rumor, but they're thinking we may see our first trailer for Black Widow December 3rd.
Okay.
That's the rumor.
Is that coming with a movie premiere, or?
I would think so. I'm not exactly sure where. I'm sure there's going to be a big movie opening. I think it's
Frozen?
Maybe that might be it.
Frozen 2, forgive me.
Frozen, yeah, there you go. Because it's too early for Star Wars movies. So yeah, it's going to be somewhere around. So we should be seeing. If the rumor is true, we should see a trailer here sometime soon. And of course, after that, November 6, 2020, we get the Eternals. And at February the 21st, 2021, we get Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Then May the 7th, 2021, we get Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Then July 16th, 2021, Spider-Man, the Far From Home sequel, whatever they're going to call that. We don't know yet.
Back Home, I don't know.
Yeah.
Homecoming, Far From Home.
Coming Home.
Coming Home, Take Me Home, Country Roads, I don't know.
There you go. And there's a rumor going on about the Spider-Man movie, is that anybody who walked out during the credits and didn't see the end credits scene, I'm going to spoil it for you, but it's a big deal. It wasn't just a little minor thing, but the world now knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And the rumor has it that he's going to need a lawyer, and that lawyer is going to be
Matt
Murdock. Played by Charlie Cox.
So from the Netflix universe.
So we
MCU.
He will be back. So there's been rumors of them bringing in a lot of the Netflix characters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And like I said, the main rumor right now is that we'll see Charlie Cox in the new Spider-Man movie, which I can't wait for sure. But we'll see if that happens. Again, that's a rumor.
He'll also need a publicist.
True enough. After the November the 5th, 2021, we get Thor, Love and Thunder. May 6th, 2022, we get Black Panther 2. Now, after that, we don't know what movies will be coming out, but we do know they'll be coming out October the 7th, 2022, February 17th, 2023, May 5th, 2023, July 18th, 2023, and November 3rd, 2023. So what that means is instead of getting 2 Marvel movies a year, in 2023, we're going to get 4. So,
and all these are big theater releases, nothing, on their on Disney Plus or anything.
No,
like that.
these are all the big screen movies. Now we've talked about the schedule they've had, or at least what they've released so far as the television side of things.
WandaVision and
right. And all of that. So, I mean, we don't have solid dates for everything yet, but we do know that we should be seeing that in the next couple of years. Okay, let's talk a little bit of streaming war stuff before we get into what I have been watching for the last week or so. Things are fired up with Netflix. They have just penned a deal with Nickelodeon to do original content. And
wow.
Now they've already started doing stuff already with Invader Zim and things like that. And apparently they're going to develop more.
Oh, yeah, they did the Rocko's Modern Life one.
Yes, they did that also. And apparently we're going to get more of that as well as other characters. They're going to be doing one-offs and series and all of that. So they've been basically hedging their bets, getting more content, but because, of course, with this, content is king. And so they're trying to develop more content. Now, what's strange, of course, we're recording on Thursday. Today, something weird happened. Netflix was down for 2 hours.
What?
Completely down. Gone. Not just in the United States, but all over the world. Something happened to their servers, and it didn't affect everybody. I guess it varied from user to user, but for the majority of the people on Netflix, they just couldn't use it. They couldn't access the website. So there's no news right now what exactly happened. I suspect that they're changing up their programming. And by programming, I mean the code on the site, because they're wanting to add new features. And one of them, which you may have heard of, that's been rather controversial, is they're setting it up so that you can watch a movie at 1.5 times its normal speed. Did you hear about this?
Why would you want to do that?
Because you'll get done with the movie faster or the TV show faster. Now, of course, what you do is you turn the tone down so that the voices sound normal. They don't go,
like the chipmunks.
They don't go chipmunks. It'll sound normal. It'll just go by faster. So if you want to binge watch something, again, exactly. A 30-minute show would take, 18 minutes.
Now, I won't lie. There are some Walking Dead episodes, where I have fast forwarded, so hey,
now Mandy,
maybe, but
Mandy, fast zombies suck, and you're just gonna make them faster if you do that. But yeah, that a lot of people, especially filmmakers, are like, look, if I wanted, I pace my film. My scenes come up, and the speed they come up for a reason. I get that. Now, I do have to admit, though, as somebody who I have an Audible account and I listen to a lot of books, and of course, audio books forever you've been able to speed up the 1.25, 150. Now, 150, I notice it a little bit. 125, not so much as far as the speed. But one thing about it is once you kind of get used to it, you don't even notice it anymore. On the other hand, I understand the art side of it. I understand why people wouldn't want to.
I can as well. However, filmmakers look at their films as an all-sensory experience.
Right.
Okay. However, there are people who can't hear, so they have to watch it with subtitles, so they don't get the inflection that the filmmaker was going for during this part.
Yeah.
There are blind people who only listen to films, so they can't see the beautiful sunset. I mean, we all have had to adapt to watch, movies in our own way.
Right.
So it may change a person's experience in watching and observing films, but I don't think it's going to hurt their experience in any way. I mean,
like I said, I get the the idea of, you want as creating a piece of art, you want it to be paced at the way that you've designed it. But at the same time, and I've said this before on the podcast, and I think it was like a couple podcasts ago, I said this, is that, the artist and the audience, there's a pact between them, which is an artist can create their art in any way that they choose to create it, and the audience has no business telling them how to create it. Once it's been created and it becomes the property of the audience, and the artist has no say in how they view that material, what they think of that material. It belongs to them now at that point. And I think this is a similar deal. And I think for the most part, people are just going to be basically fast watching a lot of television. I don't suspect that people are going to blow through movies. I mean, it's going to be an option, but I think for the most part, it's something that people who are trying to get through a series and they're binge watching it, and they know if they speed it up, they'll have time for 2 more episodes where they wouldn't normally, and they're not really missing anything. They're basically getting the episode. It's just coming at them a little bit faster. That's all. So, I mean, I definitely get it. I mean, I see both sides of the argument for sure. Mm-hmm. But let's talk a little more about streaming, because I have, I said I was going to dive into and start getting streaming services, and I did. So we'll start with the Apple Plus, because what I did was I haven't watched everything on Apple Plus for sure, but I did want to catch first episodes, pilot episodes of a couple of their new shows that I knew would be geeky type of things to watch, and I did see For All Mankind. We did talk about that one. That was the one where the Russians beat us to the moon.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Alternate history. Got it.
Yes, an alternate history. Now, there's a lot more going on than just that. And there were certain things that I had forgotten about that they really played on the pilot episode, and like I said, things I knew, but didn't realize how much it would play into the episode. Specifically, that of course the soul of America was rather tattered at the moment, because of course we were in Vietnam, and some of us thought we should be there, some of us thought we shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And so beating the Russians to the moon was something that kind of brought us all together for that moment. Now, of course, in this situation where that didn't happen, it's like another blow to America's ego at that point. And I mean, there's this wonderful scene where you hear Nixon in the background talking on the phone, saying how upset that he was that they got beat. It's like, because they're going to blame, they were going to blame it on him. It's like, they're going to say, that he was the one who basically dropped the ball. It's like Kennedy started it, Johnson nurtured it, and I dropped the ball at the goal line. Because basically in the show, the United States was getting ready to launch like the week after. Mm-hmm. And they were like completely surprised at this point. They had no idea that the Russians were even close. They had launched a couple of
satellites.
Yeah, a couple satellites, a couple of rockets, but nothing, as far as they could tell, close enough. And what NASA had was a lot more advanced than what the Russians had. The Russians basically took a chance on something that could have went real south on them. Mm-hmm. But
Hail Mary.
They did exactly. That's exactly it. They did a Hail Mary to the moon, and it paid off.
Got lucky. Wow.
And it paid off for them. And I found all that fascinating, because you see a lot of the stuff going on in the background. There's a lot of interesting threads that they're starting to weave in all of this. Okay. And of course, when America finally does take their shot at the moon, there's all that pressure, and they're feeling rushed. And so things don't go off as well as they did in history, we'll just say. And I don't want to say more than that, because I don't want to really spoil anything. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of threads in this first episode that I found really fascinating. And just the certain things that happened just because we lost the race to the moon that you don't really kind of think about. And then you're like, yeah, that would have happened, and that would have happened, and the whole idea of NASA wanting Nixon to call the astronauts, when they land, to congratulate them, and Nixon refusing to do it. He says he's never called anybody before who won a silver medal. Ooh. That was the line. But yeah, like I said, that first episode was definitely fascinating. Like I said, it was interesting seeing all the different threads that this thing covered. And it's not just about the space program, but women in the space program and how they were treated. And, also something that I think is going to play more into the episode, but Mexicans trying to cross the border was a thread. A young woman who watched the Russians land on the moon with her mom, and her mom was sick and she passes away, and now her family's trying to cross over the border. I have a feeling that little girl is going to play a part later on in the episode. But like I said, they're covering a lot of different things, which I really enjoyed. So there's only 2 episodes right now, but looking forward to the next one and seeing where they go with it. The other show that I watched the pilot for was C, which was the Jason Momoa.
Right, the blind.
Yes.
In the country of the blind, yeah.
Yeah, the blind. Again, apparently this is a world, it's like hundreds of years after the plague that robbed, it killed the majority of humanity. There was only like 2 million left, and everyone who was left had lost the ability to see. And so we're looking at centuries later, and how how society has developed from that point, and so it's kind of like I said, it's sort of like a dystopian fantasy, because basically society worships the sun, but but can't see it. Mm-hmm. So it's just like this presence, that they pray to. But of course they have villainized light as, a corruptible aspect. It's like, humanity, when they could see, they were evil. And now that, we can't see, we're good. And so that really plays onto the thing of, there's a person who had the ability to see and was persecuted and basically had to escape. Right. And we've not seen this character yet, but he's basically in the background, helping out this tribe that Jason Momoa is a part of, because there's a woman who Jason Momoa's character has married, who was pregnant with this gentleman's child, which found out they had 2 children. And it turns out they also have the ability to see. Mm-hmm. And by the pilot, nobody realizes that yet.
Okay.
But there was a lot of like really interesting aspects to this. One of the cool parts of it, there are witch hunters that go around trying to find heretics. And they're basically attacking this village because they found out that this woman who's pregnant with this heretic's child, they think it's a child at the is in this village. And of course, the village fights back, because it's not like they can just turn the woman over and the child, because the witch hunters feel that once you've been touched by evil, there's no redemption.
Okay, so this is like our King Herod,
Pharaoh
kind of killing all the firstborns. And
well, it's not even firstborn; they would just burn the entire village to the ground and kill everybody. So scorched earth policy. And we get to meet the Queen Kane, and an odd cat. Like I said, I'm not going to mention a whole lot about it. Let's just say that the way she prays is kind of it's atypical. We'll just say that.
Okay.
We'll say that. I think for the level of adult language that we use, I can't really say more to it than that. Just watch the episode and you'll find out. One of the things I really loved about it, of course, is while they are waiting. While Jason Momoa's troops are waiting for the witch hunters to come up the hill and attack them, they do a version of basically a Samoan haiku, if you know what that is. The chanting that they do in
haka.
A haka. That's it. I said haiku. Why did I say that? Yeah, it's a haka.
Haiku. That's the Japanese thing.
That's the Japanese thing. I mean, haka. Yes, they do a Samoan haka, which even though they use some English in it, obviously. And if you've never seen one before, I mean, you certainly have, but I love watching videos of them on YouTube, because they're
so powerful.
They are. And it feels the same way in this show. So so we're basically left, like I said, I've only seen the pilot episode of it, but they've really set up a lot of things, because like I said, we've not seen this heretic, but we know that he is a person of means, and he was able to basically helping this tribe to escape. But like I said, we don't know much about him. We don't know much about what his ultimate goals are. We just know that he has an ability that most people think is basically a curse. And they consider him a heretic and a bad person. And so where that develops from there, I guess we'll find out. So let's talk a little Disney Plus, because I did happen to jump on the Disney Plus bandwagon as well. Disney Plus, first day, 10 million subscribers right on the first day. And it crashed the first day.
Surprise!
Yeah, so people were waiting for it for sure. Now, most people watching it now, I think the main interest in content was, there's a lot of stuff that people haven't seen in a long time. There's a lot of the nostalgia that's playing in it right now. I mean, a lot of the new original programming hasn't come out yet. I mean, I see old episodes of the Spider-Woman cartoon, which I watched when I was 12, so there's a lot of that nostalgia aspect of it. But I did watch a couple of pieces of original programming, and one of them, which I said this on the podcast before, I said I would buy Disney Plus for just this, and now I feel completely justified to say it. I watched The World According to Jeff Goldblum, and there's 2 episodes, and I've seen both of them. if you thought you loved Jeff Goldblum, you're going to absolutely adore him after this. It's incredible. The first episode was about sneakers and sneaker culture.
Sneaker culture.
Yes.
Huh.
Well, the fact that people are buying and selling sneakers for thousands of dollars, and there's like custom sneakers and, rare sneaker, and there's conventions where people are buying sneakers and they're walking around with big rolls of money. Mm-hmm. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy these sneakers. And
at my prior employment, sneakers were a big, they were massive, because that is the only thing that would make you stand out, because everyone was dressed alike. Everyone was,
right,
wore the exact same thing. And so shoes were just massive. And
oh yeah. And I mean, and certainly in culture, sneakers are a big deal. And one of the things that Jeff Goldblum did was he met someone he's known on the street as, they call him the sneaker surgeon. He makes custom sneakers. And he made a pair of custom sneakers for
so he's
Jeff.
Like Pimp My Ride for shoes.
Yeah. But he can make a pair of sneakers with any kind of fabric you can imagine, however you want it. And he made a pair of custom sneakers for Jeff that I'm not going to, you just have to see it.
Okay.
And like I said, of course, this is Jeff Goldblum, so he has that ability to take a subject that seems very, simple and banal, and just dive deep into it and really get a lot of stuff out of it. Same thing with the second episode, which was about ice cream.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, sounds like that would be just a very simple thing to talk about, but he pulled so much stuff out of it, which was amazing. And one thing that he talks about, and I didn't know this because, of course, I was never in the Navy, but apparently it's a tradition in the Navy to have ice cream socials. And so he went to a Navy ice cream social and talked to them about ice cream and all that stuff. But it was, like I said, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, it's right in my wheelhouse, and it's like, Jeff Goldblum, and I know that one of his episodes, future episodes, is going to be about denim. I know there's a lot to say about that, and like I said, it's like these are subjects that you think, oh, what could you really say about them? And he comes up with all this really interesting stuff, And I've been enjoying the show so far. Like I said, I've seen both episodes of that. And I've also, of course, this is Disney Plus, so of course I've been watching The Mandalorian.
Yes, that's what everyone has been watching.
Yes.
It broke the internet.
It became memes, absolutely. And so I don't even feel like this is a spoiler, although this would be a spoiler if you've not seen the show, but if you've seen the internet, you already know about Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Which I find distracting because it's like I'm trying to watch the show and Baby Yoda shows up and I can't help it. I got to stop there and go, oh, who's your Baby Yoda? Who's your Baby Yoda, you sweet,
Yes.
So you immediately go into that. When I first saw it, I came up with the same, I thought the same thing that apparently a lot of other people have thought, who are really into manga, Lone Wolf and Cub. I mean, it's that it's kind of that story, of the Ronin, the masterless samurai fighting the bad guys, pushing a pram with a baby in it, Lone Wolf and Cub. And so this is very similar to that. I know a lot of people have said that they feel like this is like a return to Star Wars, and I can see that for sure. I've really enjoyed the 2 episodes I've seen so far. There's another one. Episode 3 is supposed to be out on Friday, so that'll be, from the time we're recording, that'll be tomorrow. I'm really curious to see where they go with it. I love the little Easter eggs that they throw in. For example, there's a reference to Life Day.
Yes.
So
fighting the Frizzies at 11.
Yeah. So there you go. So for people, anyone who doesn't know what that's from, of course, that's from the Star Wars Christmas special that was on television, which basically George Lucas has done everything in his power to make sure that no one ever sees it again.
Unsuccessfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guarantee you'll find. You do a search somewhere, you'll see it. Hence why making a reference to Life Day is something you could do, because people are going to know what you're talking about for sure. But very well shot. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on with this show. We don't know much about Mando or Mandy, the Mandalorian, whoever. We've not even seen his face yet. I mean, we're getting some stuff developing in the background, but as of right now, it's open for a lot of things could happen at this point, and I'm certainly on the road to see what that is. So, before we get off the topic of streaming services, one thing that I did want to talk to you about, Mandy, for a little bit and get your opinion on is Kevin Feige has come out and pretty much said that, if you're into the Marvel movies, you really need to have Disney Plus, because a lot of the things on their television shows are going to play heavily into the movies. So much so, in fact, that to enjoy the films, you're going to have to watch the shows. Specifically, like they're saying things like WandaVision is going to play heavily into the Doctor Strange sequel. And not just that, but some things of Loki are going to play into it. And it's like, if you haven't watched those shows, there's going to be stuff that you kind of miss. Now, what do you think about that? Let me ask you that.
I think it's kind of unfair. I don't think that's a good idea, because, a movie should be enjoyed on their own merit. And, like if you watching, all the MCU movies is great, and you get kind of these inside jokes and things like that, but you don't have to see Iron Man to enjoy Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. You can still enjoy it. And so I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely say that, as we've been going along in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yeah, it's usually a good idea to have caught some of them, because there's a storyline going on, and I get that. And I mean, I also understand the situation where you want to encourage people to buy Disney Plus and have them watching the shows. And to be honest, it's not like anybody who's watching Marvel movies aren't going to be watching those shows. But at the same time, and this is where I kind of fall on this, I agree with you that maybe this is not the best idea. One, because this is how comic books died for the most part. Because that's what they did. It was like they had these huge events, and you had to buy pretty much every title to get the entire story. And they did that, but, to encourage people to buy comic books that, and titles that they weren't normally reading. Mm-hmm. But people don't want to go out and buy 22 comics, to get a story when they only really are interested in one or two of them. And so
if you're a diehard Fantastic Four fan, and then now you're forced to be an X-Men fan, there's
it's not even being a fan.
There.
You have to buy an X-Men comic to find out, a part of the story, or you're going to be left out of it. So, I mean, that concerns me to a degree. The other thing, too, is that I don't think it's a matter of, it's like, can some people afford it or some people can't? Are people not going to have the service, or are they going to have the service? Because like I said, I figure if you watch Marvel movies, you're going to have Disney Plus. I suspect that's going to be the case. But at the same time, regardless, because I don't think it's a money issue, but regardless of whether you're Jeff Bezos or you're a homeless person, everyone has the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. And especially now that we are in the middle of a streaming war, there is so much content out there. You have to decide. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day, and you're going to want to sleep for about 8 of them.
Hey, maybe you could watch stuff on double speed.
Well, there you go. But there's so much content out now. It's like now it's again. I'm pretty sure that Marvel and Disney, what they're hoping to do is that because these shows are going to be requirements to see the movie, that they're going to be watching that stuff instead of watching content on Amazon Prime or Apple Plus or whatever, is that they're going to be able to pull those viewers away because this is required reading, as it were.
You have homework.
But at the same time, if you're going around telling people that there's no point in watching Doctor Strange 2 if you've not watched WandaVision, what do you do if you not watch WandaVision? Well, what you might do is say, well, there's no point in going to the theater. What I'll do is when I have time, I'll watch WandaVision, and then when Doctor Strange 2 comes out on Disney Plus,
then I'll watch it.
I'll watch it then, because it's going to, it's the same service. Like I said, I don't think everybody's going to do that, but I wonder how many people will do that, and that will definitely hurt their box office if that's the case. So I don't know. This is going to be one of those things that I can see. I can see it going either way. I think it's really going to fall to what people decide to do as a whole. And I think, like I said, some people will definitely spend the time and watch all the TV shows, and others will just wait. Now, where that percentage is going to fall, I couldn't tell you, but wow. I'm not saying that would necessarily kill the MCU, but I think it has the potential of hurting it to a degree. We will sit back and watch and see what's happened. So, well, before we go, let's talk a little bit of Walking Dead. We do have a couple of episodes to talk about. Before we get to those, it looks like they're saying that, of course, we're on season 10 now, but they're saying that Walking Dead could end at season 12, that season 12 is going to be the last season of Walking Dead. That would be March of 2022. And that they're going to wrap up the story. Of course, if you've been reading the comics, we're getting to a point now where 2 seasons will probably get them caught up to where the comic ended. And so, at least to my viewpoint, I've always said that open-ended TV shows are hard to write for because, you're just basically trying to keep it going. But if you have an endpoint and you're going for that endpoint, then that allows you to develop story and wrap it up and all that. And, you feel like you get a satisfying ending than, if you just, keep it going until you run out of steam, which was something I was a little worried about before. But, if they have said it that we're gonna go to the end of season 12 and wrap it at that point, I think that's going to help make the story a little bit better. It's not necessarily going to be the truth, but I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do. They're developing some stuff now with the Whisperers, and of course, this mysterious voice that Eugene is talking to. For people who've read the comics, everybody's saying that's got to be someone from the Commonwealth, which if they bring the Commonwealth in, that's going to be a huge difference to the show as far as tone's concerned, because the Commonwealth is basically a city of 50,000 people. And we haven't seen 50,000 people total in the entire season of The Walking Dead. So it will definitely be a change in tone in the show. But let's talk a little bit about the last 2 episodes. The first one being Bonds, which was the Negan show. That was interesting. Well, of course, the episode before we saw Negan trying to escape and his issues, and then of course he decides he's going to head toward the Whisperers, and so we get these moments of Negan being tested, and testing his patience, testing his strength, and all of that. And so
it was one of the funnier episodes, of the whole series. I think you get very few laughs, and this one had some great ones.
Oh yeah, well, because the thing about it is, it's like Negan and the Whisperers are oil and water. He's like they don't talk, and he does, and he just doesn't stop.
And everything Negan and Beta, basically whip out the rulers, and that was hilarious. Dragging this one, and he's got 2 up on his shoulders, no problem.
Definitely. They make it's like the Odd Couple for sure. And that moment, the moment where you think Negan is screwed, where basically where Beta has left him to die. And he comes rolling in after killing all those walkers by himself.
Oh yeah.
And then he kneels in front of Alpha. Now the question is, of course, is Negan, what is he thinking? What's his game plan? It's like, I think at this point, if you think you know exactly what Negan's going for, I think you might be off. I think he's got something else going on in his brain right now. Some sort of a plan. What it is, I don't know, but
well, the thing, Negan has always known people and understood them and how they worked, and he could see these people, what he's heard talk about them, what he knows from Lydia, and he says, okay, these are cult mentality people. Are they looking for Jim Jones? Are they looking for
right? And that's the thing about Negan, is he's always been able to find people's their wants and their needs and to play off of them. He
was an emperor. I've always talked about Negan being Caesar and Rick being Spartacus. And now he's met, this little cult. And he, so now this is, I don't know, a good parallel for it.
The thing about
Jonestown.
Very much so. Very much so. But that's the thing about Negan is, on the surface, he's this big brutish guy who's, really harsh, but he is someone who's a genius in social engineering. Mm-hmm. He's made a few mistakes. I mean, one of the mistakes that he made certainly was when he had Rick done and finished. I think his admiration for Rick made him mess with him more than he should have. If he'd have left him alone, they probably wouldn't have got frustrated enough to the point where they rose up against him. The other thing too is that he needed to cut off their hunting grounds to a point where the different groups like Hillside and the Kingdom, where they weren't going to run into each other. Mm-hmm. Because when they did run into each other, that's when they started forming, the bonds and the unions that they were able to rise up against him. Yeah. But besides that, those Achilles heels of Negan's, what eventually led to his downfall. But for the most part, like I said, as when it comes to social engineering, he's got a PhD, and that he earned from the School of Hard Knocks, and whatever he's got in mind for the Whisperers, like I said, that'll be something to watch for sure. Then, of course, since they got one from our team, next episode turns out we got one from their team.
What?
So,
yeah. Surprise!
Open Your Eyes was the name of that episode. And, of course, we got to see more, stuff that's been going on with Sadiq and a lot of his issues. And
we're finally seeing the result of the, contaminating the water source.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we knew Gamma was contaminating the water, but of course they have purification systems. But
that can only go so far.
Yeah, well, the problem is, you've got the uncontaminated water and you got the contaminated water, and it's just you just got a lever, and if you turn the lever and bend it up so it looks like it's pointed the right way, people were drinking contaminated water. I had a feeling it had to do with the water because it seemed to me from watching the episodes it was the only common denominator with everyone.
Well, I think it was very obvious. He's carrying around that jug. You see him filling it up. You see him pouring it into glasses. I think it was very, a big neon sign flashing.
Oh, yeah.
It's the water.
It's something in the water. Uh-huh. So what I didn't expect is...
not Cabin in the Woods. What is it? Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever, mm-hmm. Yeah. But, the one thing that surprised me that, of course, was Dante. I think as far as story writing is concerned, I wish they would have the clicking part of it. I wish they would have, and maybe they did and I missed it, but I wish they would have put the whole clicking thing like right at the, earlier, in earlier episodes. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is because when Dante starts clicking, that's when it should have clicked for us at the same time when it clicked for Sadiq. Mm-hmm. They had to go to basically a flashback at that point to say, so it seemed, like I said, it seemed kind of sudden. Now there were little hints of different things, like of course when Dante was talking to their prisoner, the guy who was the watched the Guardians and all that.
The one who spit in Carol's face, yeah.
The one who spit in Carol's face, but like I said, it was a little bit sudden. I think they could have built up to it a little bit more, but wow, this makes things rough, doesn't it? Mm. We already know that. People have known already that Sadiq, there was issues with him. So how, Dante's going to get out of this? If he can make it look like a suicide. After all, he basically choked this guy to death. That was the other thing too that was rough. It's like, oh man, Sadiq is dead. Holy crap. That just like right at the end, that's how they ended, was with killing Sadiq. Yeah. And that was that. And because he's a great character, I would have loved to have seen. He was
having a good journey, I feel, kind of feel like the same way they did him dirty, like they did Beth dirty. Beth at first she seemed like just this teenager, but then she was suicidal, and then she came back from that, and then she learned to be strong by herself, and and then they just cut her whole story off right at the knees. We didn't get to see her grow any more than that. And I kind of feel like Sadiq was getting there too. He has PTSD. There's so many people who can, relate to that. And now we're cutting his story off right at the knee.
Yeah, that's true. But one thing about The Walking Dead and what did Beth in and did Sadiq and has done several other characters is like, if you're a doctor, Dante is wrong. It's like, you're not a god in that world. You're a ticking time bomb. You're going to die. Somebody's got medical skills. They're going to die. It's like nobody in that show who, at this point, except
plot
for Dante.
Plot fodder instead of plot armor.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're, once more into the breach. Somebody's like, hey, I'm a doctor. It's like, all right, what? Take a look at your watch. Let's see how long they've got. Yeah, it is. Being medical means that, it very much is that, yeah, there's a target on your back. You're either going to be choked out and killed, thrown in a fire, shot, killed some way. The medical people, they're like, yep. It's pretty bad. Now, of course, the next episode's the last one for this mid-season.
Yeah.
The World Before, which is the name of the episode. And so... Okay. At this point, I'm wondering, now you've kind of built up things on both sides. Now, from what I can tell from the preview for the next episode, they're going to deal with, of course, Sadiq's death. Michonne's going to have a heck of a lot of stuff to come into when she comes back to Alexandria. A lot of stuff has happened, for sure. And so, and of course, this is going to be her last season. Mm-hmm. Now, I think she is going to be in the second half of this season. Okay. But, we got basically set up for this path that's going to take Michonne out of the show in one way or another. Now, of course, the rumor is she's going to be in the Rick Grimes movies. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping they don't kill her off. That'd be terrible. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't like that at all, for sure. But we'll have... Of course, when that episode hits, we'll take it apart, talk about it, and we'll see how they decide to leave us hanging for a few months until the show comes back for the second season, for the second half of the season. So with that said, we come to the end of episode 90 of the Geekwatch Podcast. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for the latest in geek news and views with the Geekwatch Podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Geekwatch Podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geekwatch Podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geekwatch Podcast is a Hanging J production.